back to Room 237, and this is another random review. If you've been following my channel, you know that my more recent videos, I've been going through and watching movies from A24 and IFC Midnight, because those are my two favorite film companies for modern horror. And this is another one. It's not particularly from either one of those companies. This one is actually put out by BFI Distribution, and BBC Films, but it has the same kind of feel as like an IFC film, and it does kind of have that feel as my girlfriend calls it, artsy fartsy horror, which she's not wrong. And it's 2019's Little Joe. I saw this on Hulu, and this is one I've come across a few times. I thought the cover looked interesting. I don't own it, but this is one I will be picking up because the store I go to, I saw it for like $6 or $7. Definitely worth picking up. It did really well at the Palme d'Or Festival, Cannes Festival, and which at the Cannes Festival, it was where lead actress Emily Beecham won Best Actress, and I thought she did a great job. She kept reminding me of Julianne Moore, who I really like as well. This was written and directed by Jessica Hausner, who's an Austrian director, and she's directed nothing else I've seen. Yeah, nothing else I've seen. Excuse me. And this is, it's kind of hard to categorize. You'll probably see it listed as a drama, but it does have elements of like psychological thriller, sci-fi horror. There's some satire, social commentary in there. And this is one that I think the critics really like. Like, I know Mark Kermode really likes this film, but a lot of audiences don't. I mean, you go on YouTube and a lot of the reviews are pretty negative, which, I mean, some of my absolute favorite modern horror films did receive worldwide acclaim, like, you know, The Witch, The Lighthouse, you know, people really enjoyed, and critics and audiences. But then there's some where just the critics ate it up and audiences didn't really like it. Again, artsy fartsy. I thought it was funny when she said that. This would fall into that category, and I would say of all the films in my elevated horror playlist, or ones that I've been doing as of late, like these kind of more artistic kind of films, the A24 IFC type films, this one would be lower in my rating. I don't love it. Well, I was gonna say I don't love it as much as some other ones, but I don't even love it. I mean, I liked it. There's plenty of nice things I can say about it. It's shot beautifully. It looks great. It has this eerie, sort of surreal, otherworldly feel to it. Like, especially the scenes in the lab where everything is just white and they have like their green lab coats. I mean, Emily Beecham looks like she's straight out of the 60s with her like Sailor Mercury haircut and her very citrus colored clothing. And it has this weird feel and atmosphere to it. Because one complaint I have heard is that the acting and performances are rather stiff, and one word I've heard used a lot is wooden, which I would agree with, but I think that's part of the satire, because the story is about these scientists who genetically engineer these plants, which they call Little Joe, named after Emily Beecham's son, Joe. that is designed to make people happy. It gives off some aroma or some pollen that is designed to make people happy. But then, of course, it has a bit of an Invasion of the Body Snatchers type story to it, where that's all people care about. They're happy, but they don't care about anything else in their life. They only care about, you know, helping little Joe live and reproduce and spread. So they're happy, but there's a catch to it. And eventually Emily Beecham is the only one that's trying to stop this because everyone else is infected. And I think that part of the satire is that there's this plant designed to make people happy, yet everyone, even when they are happy, they're still kind of robotic, wooden, almost Stepford wife kind of. Especially the young girl Selma, who is her son's sort of girlfriend character. I don't know if it was bad acting or if she was told to kind of be this Stepford wife, kind of like, hello, Mrs. Woodard, how are you? Just odd and creepy. And even when there is personality in the performances, like the male lead is played by Ben Whishaw, who people might recognize from Perfume, The Story of a Murderer, I'm Not There, Brideshead, Revisited, Bright Star. I thought I heard someone say something about, he was also in The Lobster, which was directed by the same person that did Killing of a Sacred Deer, which that film I loved. So he's been in a lot of stuff. You know, he has a good performance. He has some personality. I guess Emily Beecham's is more kind of this reserved. Even when the stakes are kind of raised, no one gets really intense or anything, except for the character of Bella, who's an elderly woman believed to have some sort of a mental illness, and she picks up on the plant's intentions early on. But she was played by Carrie Fox, who I was just thrown off by her picture because she did not look like that in the movie. And this was just 10 years before the film. But she was also in... not seeing anything that I've heard of. Intruders, is that the same one? Yep, with Clive Owen. I did see that. Nope, I guess that's it. But anyway. And then Phoenix Brossard is a younger worker at the lab. And then David Wilmot is sort of their boss, Carl, who kind of looks like a British version of Stephen Root. But, so yeah, it is this kind of psychological thriller mixed with, you know, the sci-fi element of genetically making these plants, and then the plants not really turning on people, but having this sort of goal where they can pollinate, and they call it this virus, the pathogenic virus that will infect their brains, make them not care about anything else in life except for little Joe. And earlier on in the film, Alice brings a little Joe to her son, and some things go on at the lab. Like, what really kicks it off is Bella has like a service dog named Bello, who goes missing. Chris, her Ben Wishaw's character, he goes to look for the dog in the flower room, and I do like to look at the flowers. It's, it's like sort of a weird orchid shape, and they're like pods, but then they open up and they let out like a poof of pink pheromones or pollen. The the cinematography, the set design, the lighting and the color design, I thought was all very well done. The acting for what they were doing, I thought worked. I think being wooden and being kind of emotionless or icy or cold helped kind of with the satire. Again, I don't know if that's part of the joke, but for me, it worked. The only thing I would say that I don't think really worked would be the score. And the score was done by, I know I started going into the plot, then I went off on a tangent, but the score was done by, it doesn't even tell me. Normally it says music by, but it goes from like weird, like oriental music, like a sitar and drums in odd placements, and then as the film goes on and things become more intense, it's like this weird screeching sound mixed with like dogs barking. Like dogs barking is like an instrument, there's like a beat to it or like a rhythm. And I have seen reviews where people found it obnoxious and annoying. At times I would agree with that. It's definitely different, and I think it kind of worked. I see what they were going for. Sometimes it did work. The Oriental stuff, I'm not sure, because they'll put it in, it looks like it's supposed to enhance the next scene, but they put it like towards the end of the previous scene, and it just, the arrangements didn't really work for me that well. But anyway, so I think like the first sign that things aren't okay is Chris goes to look for the dog. He goes in the flower room and he gets pollinated. And he starts to breed more plants without consent or permission from their boss. Also before the pollen allergy tests have been fully evaluated. But then she says that she brought a little Joe to her son. They have one at their apartment, and there's nothing wrong with them. Even though Joe had been pollinated shortly before this conversation. But when Bello, the dog, does show back up, he's very violent, and he barks at Bella and attacks her. And she can just tell the dog's not the same. And she has the dog put down. And people put Bella off as just being that she's mentally ill. And she was known to have a suicide attempt at one point. And they even see that the plants are kind of being sabotaged at one point. And one guy, Rick, thinks she did it on purpose. Chris thinks it's incompetence. Well, not really. He gives her credit for like her seniority and her expertise, but thinks her mental illness is getting in the way. But she talks to Alice, which is Emily Beecham's character, her suspicions about the plant changing people, and she suspects that's what happened with the dog. But then Joe starts acting strange. Like he brings the girl Selma from school to hang out. They sneak into the lab. They steal her plant. He agrees to go live with his father, who's estranged from Alice and lives out in the country. Alice won't have that. Even to the point where they're having an argument and she's like pulling on his arm and he jerks back and she falls and hits her head, and he doesn't care. He says he'll go get a plaster, which I'm guessing is a Band-Aid. Just no care whatsoever. And then immediately him and Selma go to Little Joe. But it's around this time she watches all these videos of the allergy test patients where family members are saying how different they are and how they're not the same person. Now, I think that's part of the satire as well, is creating these plants that make you happy. But one, they're sterile, so they can't reproduce on their own. So it's like you can only get them through this company. But also, as someone who suffered from depression, anxiety their whole life, seeing parts where, like, they're given this plant as a test to see if it makes them happy, and then when they do, people think there's something wrong with them. Like, they're not the same person. I thought that was hilarious. Again, I don't know if that's part of the satire, but that's what I took away from it. And basically, the invasion of the body snatchers element is that, yes, Alice eventually does see that Little Joe is bent on using its toxic pathogenic pollen to, infect people, to help raise it and help reproduce and spread and make the whole world care about it. And she's the only one that's willing to stop it. Eventually, Bella, who is speaking out against a Little Joe, and I think another complaint I have is I feel like they could have gone further with that element, like raising the stakes, sort of really showing that everyone that's infected really cares about the plant, and that Alice is kind of get pushed to more desperation to stop it, and kind of, I guess, kind of like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, have like more risk of them trying to stop her, or them even trying to turn her, and her having nowhere else to go. But it doesn't really feel like it goes that far. I mean, the furthest it really goes is, I'll say spoilers here. I'm not going to put the screen up or anything, because it's not really a mystery. But, so if you haven't seen it yet, spoilers, but, it's on Hulu. If you like A24 films or IFC type films, I think you'll like it. It's not as good as, say, The Witch, The Lighthouse, Comes at Night, Killing of a Sacred Deer. It is, or I wouldn't say it's as good as The Other Lamb, which other people think is a drama with horror elements. This one's kind of like that, but it's definitely more of like a sci-fi type thriller. So if you take like Invasion of the Body Snatchers and Little Shop of Horrors, kind of like that. But it is very beautifully shot. It looks great. It is visually surreal, kind of like just the world it creates with its colors, its lighting. It's not really trippy and stylish, but it's definitely unique looking. Its score is also unique. Maybe it'll work for you. Didn't always work for me, but I still enjoyed it. I am a sucker for these for these kinds of films. But spoilers. So Rick says he has to leave work. So he asks Bella if she will do, I think he says like the nutrient feed or whatever. So she goes in the lab and the doors get locked. And the boss does at one point say masks must be worn because they're waiting on like the finalized allergy test results. So she's in there wearing a mask, and all the plants start pollinating. And she is able to escape through a window, but apparently she was pollinated. And now Alice is on board asking her for help, but she says, "Oh, that was just my paranoia. I'm fine now. It was really nothing." So now Alice has no one. And by this point, pretty much everyone is already turned. I mean, even the boss, Carl, lifts the mask mandate. And I think this is around the time when Joe tells her he wants to go live with his father, which he also tells her that he and Selma stole the little Joe to pollinate Ivan. But then she finds out that was a joke because Chris talked to Joe for her about, moving away from her and going to live with his dad. So he just kind of made a joke at her expense. But eventually, when there's like this work meeting where I think this is where the boss lifts the mask mandate. And this is when Bella steps forward and says, "Okay, I wasn't really pollinated. I pretended to be so I could blend in with all of you, and maybe the plant would think that it had already got me." So again, kind of like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where if you act emotionless, they won't really notice. But it doesn't really go very far with that. And then Chris and Carl try to stifle her, and they're trying to get her out. Alice is trying to catch up with them, and she hears a scream and a thud. She fell off the ledge by the stairs. Fell to her, I don't know if she fell to her death or if she was like in a critical condition, but still, the boss is like, "Yeah, it's very sad, but we all must work." And so then, this is when Alice decides she's the one that has to stop little Joe. So she goes in the lab, turns the temperature all the way down, trying to kill the plants. And the thing that's in there has like a key. So Chris comes in, realizes what's happened, and it hints at a one-way romance. Like he really likes her, but she doesn't think of him that way. But now, since he's infected by little Joe, he tries to get the key from her so he can save the plants. And in the scuffle, he punches and knocks her out, in which he pulls her mask down, leaves her in there, so then she's exposed. So then by the end of the film, we see, and it is kind of a slow reveal, again, like Body Snatchers, where she seems to be accepting what's going on, like, at work the next day or whatever. She finds out that little Joe has been nominated for an award. It's going to get worldwide distribution. People love it. It's going to go out everywhere, and there's really nothing she can do. Chris apologizes for hitting her, and she responds by kissing him, which he tried to kiss her earlier in the film, and she rejected him, but now she kisses him. And she seems very accepting of everything. And again, I was wondering, like, okay, is she going along with it like Bella did? But then she drops Joe off with his father so he can live with him. And then she goes home, and we see that she has her own of little Joe. So she has been infected. And hinting that soon the whole world will be infected as well. But yeah, I still enjoyed this film. It may not be high up on my list of films like this. I mean, again, The Witch in the Lighthouse, Killing of a Sacred Deer, It Follows, It Comes at Night. That's like top tier. Also Get Out. And then there's more like Hereditary, which I loved, but I hated the ending. The Other Lamb, that I thought was really, really good. I would put it somewhere between ones that I really liked or loved, and then like the bottom, like Midsummer, which I really didn't enjoy, except for the cinematography. Because I did enjoy this film. There is more that I liked than I disliked, but the dislikes, especially when it comes to the story, I felt like it was underdeveloped. And not performance-wise. Again, I think the wooden, cold performances go with the satire, and I think it helps work in contrast with the main plot of a plant that makes people happy, yet everyone is kind of emotionless. But again, I do feel like it could have gone into more thriller territory, like maybe show how desperate these people are to protect little Joe. Maybe go more into like a Body Snatchers type territory, just like with how maybe psychotically obsessive these people are and how desperate Alice is to stop the plant. But even so, I still enjoyed it. I loved how it was shot. I love how it looked. I liked the performances. The pacing was not an issue at all. It went at a fairly good pace. I have heard people say that the pacing was awful. To me, it was just fine. But yeah, I would put it in the same category of film as like the artistic A24 IFC films. But even though I liked it as much as I did, it would still be more towards the bottom. My complaints aren't enough to say I disliked the film. Just, I didn't like it as much as most other ones. So those are my thoughts on 2019's Little Joe. I'm trying to get caught up on my reviews of films I've already watched. As you can see, I'm still in the middle of a move, so things are kind of hectic. I'm trying to do ones of films I've already seen before I lose like Hulu and Netflix. But The Batman is coming. I did see that yesterday. There is a review coming. I made a post about it, and people are still asking me when it's coming or if I'm doing it. But it is coming. I do have an unboxing video as well. My good friend J Emerald 81, who sent me a number of things in the past, he sent me another thing, so I'll be doing another unboxing. But so yeah, I have a few things planned, and amidst the chaos, I'm going to try to get to them as I can. So yeah, look out for those, and check out Little Joe if you haven't, and thank you for watching.